Hey everybody, Mandy Ray of Ecstatic Astrology here to give you the solar eclipse in Aries update. It's also a new moon. Happens tonight, 11:12 p.m. Central Time at 29 degrees of Aries. There's a few things in the mix that we'll talk about, but let's start with the eclipse. So we're in eclipse season. That's what they call it. We have two eclipses that come in pairs, a solar and a lunar eclipse. This is when the sun and the moon are by the nodes of the moon. The nodes of the moon are where the ecliptic, which is the sun's path in our Earth sky, passes the path of the moon. And that's how we get the shadow. That's an eclipse. So the nodes of the moon are actually in Scorpio and Taurus. Taurus is right next to Aries, Aries, Taurus, and the nodes move backwards through the zodiac. So the north node is at 4 degrees of Taurus, and the new moon, solar eclipse, is at 29 degrees of Aries. So it's a hybrid eclipse, meaning it's got both signs involved. Okay. So what we have been dealing with is a north node in Taurus. Taurus is fixed Earth. The new moon is in Aries. That is cardinal fire. We're getting a little bit of both with this eclipse. And this is going to start pointing you in the direction of the themes of the next nodal cycle, which will be North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, as opposed to South Node in Scorpio, North Node in Taurus. So we're still there in the Scorpio Taurus eclipse cycle, though. The nodes are still there, even if the moons are out of sign. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what both mean. With the North Node in Taurus, this is about values. It's about comfort. It's about gardening our lives. I mean, not gardening for real, but yes, gardening for real. But what can we cultivate in our lives? Now, Uranus has been in Taurus with the eclipse. Uranus is upheaval, it is a shift, it is a change, it's revolution. And so we have been experiencing not only a change in what we value, a change in what makes us feel comfortable, a change in what we want to grow in our lives, but also an extreme development, the North Node there. One other thing is coming, and that is a Mercury retrograde in Taurus. So Taurus is quite heavily focused on right now. But then let's bring in the Aries stuff because that's also quite heavily focused on. We have the new moon in Aries. Aries is cardinal fire, which is our identity, our right to survival. It's the warrior, it's how we charge forth and take action. That is Aries. And Jupiter is there. Jupiter expands everything that it touches. So this Aries stuff is coming in a little early because we've got Jupiter there. And then we've got Aries and Taurus together. What we feel comfortable with, what is of value to us, even the way we spend money is the Taurus concept. And then how we take action on all of that. Both of those themes are mixed together. So let me show you a picture of the eclipse because I want you to be able to see this. I've got the door open. It's a little weird with the lighting, but I didn't want to do the fake ring light thing today. It was really annoying me. So I hope I don't look too gray. I got my gray Alabama Beta shirt on. This is the state of Alabama. Woo! I love the Alabama Beta. There's a quick little, hey, what's up for me? Okay. So this is the eclipse. This is what the chart looks like. It's Aries rising. So this is what the eclipse looks like for every body in the world. It's not specific to region at this in this chart. So we've got the new moon here at 29 degrees of Aries. There's Jupiter. Boop. Jupiter's expanding it all. And then we've got the north node, the point of eclipse, the point of shadow at 4 degrees of Taurus. And then there's Uranus and Mercury. So you can see it's all quite focused. What is Aries and Taurus in a general sense without looking at the archetypes? It is new, newness, new energy, fresh energy. So you can think that's what is going on with us in this eclipse cycle. Now, let me tell you something about these eclipses in Aries and Libra. Those come in fully. The nodes change in the summer. I'll give you the date. The nodes change on July 17th. That's when the North Node enters Aries and the South Node enters Libra. And then the first set of full on Aries Libra eclipses is going to be in October. We have October 14th and October 28th. So right now we're just in this transitional spot, and I wonder if you can feel that. The last time this transition happened would have been in 2015. Now, 14 and 15, actually. Let me say this. In 2014, it was the nodal cycle was flipped. So it was the North Node in Libra, South Node in Aries. So let me give you one more set of dates so that you can kind of think back to this, think about what themes are coming up for you. That would have been 04 to 06. So specifically 04 in December is when the nodes were changing from Taurus into Aries, same as right now, December 2004. So we could be actually, if you want to look as far as a few months back, like we are right now, from when the nodes actually change, we could say maybe September through December of 2004. So think back to that time period in your lives, and is there a theme? Is there a reoccurrence? Generally speaking, with eclipses, those patterns do bring up a rhyming of reality. Let me tell you about mine. Back in 2004 and 2005 and 2006, I was recording an album with my band and planning tours and deciding I wanted to do it fully, the musician thing. It just so happens that I'm doing the same thing right now. The North Node is in my 10th house of career and public reputation. In Taurus, that would have been my 11th house of networking and goals. So you see how you kind of build from one thing to another with these eclipses. And it's right on time coming back up for me. Even in 2014, 2015, when these cycles were flipped, I was doing it again. So, I mean, here we are with the rhyming and the repeating from 2004, 2005, and then 2014, 2015. Eclipse cycles are 18 months long and then 18 years long, respectively. So that's why 2004, 18 years ago, we're dealing with it again. And then 9 years is the half cycle when the nodes are opposite. So that's just for your information with the eclipse stuff. I wanted to tell you about that because we are in this transition period. Now, one thing to note about this eclipse is that Mars will be in Cancer. So Mars is the ruler of Aries. Mars in Cancer. Mars is action. If it's the ruler of Aries, which is about motivation, action, passion, desire, survival, the warrior, in Cancer, that becomes a little bit emotional in nature. We think nurturing. So it's the warrior who wants to nurture, the warrior who is concerned about his family, her family. Now, the South Node is also at this point ruled by Mars. So we've got kind of this weird thing with the North Node and the South Node almost kind of answering to Mars in Cancer. And I find that pretty fascinating. And with this new moon, the moon in Aries and Mars are in mutual reception. The moon is the ruler of Cancer and Mars is the ruler of Aries. They're in each other's homes. So this has a lot to do with how we feel about moving forward as well. Do we feel like getting up and getting started? Now, let's talk about Venus. Venus is ruling the actual North Node. So that is in Gemini. What was going on from October to January of 22 to 23 was Mars was retrograde in this area. Could have caused some frustration. Definitely a research project into what we want out of that. Venus is coming in to bring some balance, bring some nice, maybe even soft touches to wherever Gemini is in your chart. So Venus and Mars together are going to be working in tandem, not only with this nodal cycle, Mars ruling the South Node in Scorpio, Venus ruling the North Node in Taurus, but also with Libra and Aries. Venus rules Libra, Mars rules Aries. So we've got this interplay between Mars and Venus. What are those? Mars is how we move forward, how we take action, how we make things happen. Venus is how we receive, how we create how we get our relaxation in, maybe. And the interplay between both of those is important. So relationships do come up when we start talking about Mars and Venus, and even more so probably this summer when Venus goes retrograde in Leo, because that will happen. So this nodal cycle, this eclipse starts to bring up these themes of relationship in some way. Right now, it's about what we want and how we feel inside about what we want. Are our desires being nurtured? Is our inner emotional self feeling okay? With Mars there, it may not be. And so then we start to go, okay, what do I do about it? And you have to feel good about doing something about it. But it could be super emotional. I'm not going to lie, with Mars and Cancer and the solar eclipse in Aries, could be a little frustrating. But more importantly, and I think bigger picture, is that the wheels begin to turn. Okay, so that's the overview of the solar eclipse. We will have a lunar eclipse May 5th, and that will be fully in Scorpio. So we're not dealing with the Libra stuff just yet. But it's important to notice relationships in your life and what's going on. Notice what you want. Are you doing what you want? Because the North Node in Aries is really going to push us towards individualism, authenticity, and really self-acceptance. Right now, we're trying to figure out what we value and what makes us feel comfortable. Once that gets sorted, then it's moving on. We're going to take action on it. Now, that takes care of the solar eclipse. If you will notice, though, let's go ahead and move forward. We've got Wednesday, April 19th today, and then let's look at Thursday, April 20th. The sun and the moon, like less than 4 hours after the solar eclipse, move into Taurus. So you can see how it's not just this Aries thing, it is also Taurus. Self-worth. What do we value? What makes us feel comfortable? So we start to get into that on Thursday almost immediately. This is a time in which we may be figuring it out a little more, or maybe have to reevaluate. Why do I say that? Because Mercury goes retrograde. So as you can see, Mercury is at 15 degrees. By the evening, the moon will meet up with Mercury, and this will be like overnight, I believe. But I think it kind of puts an exclamation point on the Mercury retrograde. Here we are at 3:12 a.m. Let me just circle this so that I can show you where I'm looking. We've got the moon and Mercury here. Now, they are both together overnight, Thursday into Friday, Central Time. But there's one other little guy, little thing with it, and that is Uranus. This is Uranus. So, what I love about this Mercury retrograde is that it stations retrograde just before it meets up with Uranus. Okay, Uranus is upheaval, it's change. And that's working on our value system, what makes us feel comfortable, even what we want to grow in our lives. Okay. Mercury gets up to it. It's like, hey, I've been thinking about this value change, and if we're gonna use red on the walls in the house, I really need to prepare people first. So give me just a minute. That's kind of what Mercury's doing, okay? Mercury's got to get comfortable. That's what a retrograde is. It's a rethinking, a redoing. And maybe this Mercury retrograde, which starts April 21st, as you can see, there's this little S there. That means stationary. It means it's kind of stopped and slowed down. At least that's the way it appears in our sky. So what we're thinking about is this Taurus value change, is comfort, is the way we spend money, is materialism. That's where our minds are. And we have to think differently about it. So a lot of people are going to be thinking about, whoop, am I charging enough? Whoop, am I getting enough money? Uh-oh, I don't know if I want to spend that much money on this thing. And honestly, probably a good idea to give it a rest for Mercury retrograde. If you have a big investment to make, I'd wait. I don't typically say that, but when we're talking about Mercury retrograde in Taurus, it's um it's wise. It's wise to wait. I would also look and see, on the world stage, what's coming. Is it economy? Is it supply chain? What is it? What's going on? Okay, so that kind of takes care of Thursday and Friday. We've still got this baby moon after the eclipse moving, and now Mercury is turning around, but the moon is going to breeze right on past Uranus. So something could surprise us as we wake up Friday morning. Not going to lie, that could be a little bit jarring. Uranus change, upheaval, and shifting in a fixed Earth sign is like earthquakes. I mean, let's say metaphorically speaking, I'm not predicting an earthquake, but with the moon hitting that as we wake up Friday morning, we may be emotionally aware that something is shifting here and we need to rethink how we're doing it. Um, a good example would be I'm really valuing my time now, not so much valuing networking. I'm valuing actual money instead of the networking. So maybe I need to change the way I'm networking right now, spend a little less time doing that, and value putting work into the actual thing that makes me money. You could come up with so many different examples, but that would be a way to look at what Mercury retrograde is going to be like. What do you value? And are you putting in your energy and time into that? Okay. So I think it's worth noting that Venus and Gemini is ruled by this Mercury retrograde. So we don't even get a Venus and Gemini that's not got this retrograde flair. I mean, at first we had Mars retrograde, now we got Venus there with a Mercury retrograde. So wherever Venus is, we're kind of looking at Mercury retrograde to determine how that Venus transit happens. And don't forget, I will do rising sign videos after the 2 week forecast video. So you can go listen for your rising sign after you get done with this to find out exactly where it's at for you. Okay. So Friday, we got the moon passing Uranus. So that, just keep that in mind. Moon moves into Gemini Saturday, April 22nd. The thing that's significant about the moon in Gemini is not only that Venus is there, but it will do an initial square to Saturn. So this is Saturday, April 22nd. Something may feel intimidating that day. Moon in Gemini really wants to converse, wants to talk, wants to do the social thing. Saturn in Pisces is like, don't you just want to stay home and look at the plants? Like, isn't that what you want to do? So there does seem to be a way that our minds need to understand something at this time, and things get really weird. Oh my gosh, see, look, I even choked on myself. Can get hairy and weird with the moon in Gemini square Saturn. This is exact at around 2 p.m. Central Time Saturday. Keep that in mind. If things feel especially not Saturday like, it's because of the moon square Saturn. Uh, yeah, it can feel like an obstacle. It can feel like, why am I even doing this? Pisces, where Saturn is, can lead to disillusionment. Like, is this really how it's going to be? Luckily, after that, once we get past that on Saturday, we have a Moon Venus conjunction to look forward to towards the evening, and that will be much nicer. However, they're both ruled by Mercury retrograde. Now, what we have here is something to note that these are in mutual reception, Venus and Mercury. Mercury's in Venus's home, Venus is in Mercury's home. So they are conversing, talking to each other. They're just hanging. Figuring out which way we're going. This reminds me of the scarecrow on the Wizard of Oz. He goes, she goes, which way? And that way. And then he turns around, and that's kind of the energy here. It's a little squirrely. We're not exactly sure how we're going to move forward. We know we're going to, but we got to rethink some things. At least Saturday night seems to be a little bit easier. Yeah, Moon Venus is actually active 8 a.m. Sunday, April 23rd. So that's really nice, I think. think that'll be a nice thing. Hopefully, Mercury retrograde isn't just being crazy. Let's see. I think the sun at the nodes is, that's what an eclipse season is. So I don't really want to spend too much time on that. But as we get into Monday, we get a special, actually, is it Sunday night? It's Sunday into Monday. We get Mercury sextile Mars. A sextile is opportunity. This is Mercury retrograde. Now, Mars is how we're taking action. And in Cancer, this is definitely leading with our emotions. Okay. The sextile to Mercury in Taurus does help us ground ourselves a little bit in reality. And maybe look at things analytically and take our time, maybe not acting on emotions. So I do think that's going to be really nice. That is Sunday night into Monday. And this really does activate Mars sextile Uranus, which is what's next. And it's 3 degrees off. So is this active? Looks active to me. Now, if you'll notice something, I love this part. I got Monday pulled up, Monday, April 24th. Mercury is at 15 degrees. Venus is at 15 degrees of Gemini. Mars is at 15 degrees of Cancer. We have a lot of stuff at 15 degrees, you know? That's right in the middle. And you may want to go listen to that song, stuck in the middle with you. It really is like that. We are stuck in the middle because what this is here is a semi sextile, right? Am I right? It doesn't matter. This is an annoying inconjunct, is what it's called. Mars, Venus are not really seeing each other. Our actions and the things we love, they just don't understand each other. Mars is over here feeling in Cancer and letting its emotions lead it. Venus is over here thinking in Gemini and just really wanting to receive some words of affirmation and words of help. So that is a little odd. And there is that. This is Monday. So, going into Monday, it might be weird. We also have a square to Neptune with the moon. I need to put Neptune in here. I don't have Neptune on my thing. But I think it's important enough. I want you guys to see this stuff because honestly, visualizing it for myself is very helpful. Okay, what do I want to put in? Neptune, Pluto, Chiron. Yeah, sure. Maybe we'll even put in the asteroids. Okay. So here we go. Woo! Look, it really just lights up that chart, doesn't it? There's the moon. This is Monday, just before it goes into Cancer. So you're talking Monday morning, April 24th. We've got also the moon squared Neptune. Ooh, talk about not having the energy to get up that morning. That's a very dreamy sort of situation. So I would just note that if you have something important to do, get up early, get your routine on. That's probably a good idea. All right. I'm actually looking forward to the moon being out of. Oh, wait, look, you guys, we also have a sextile to Jupiter. So, we got a little help that morning. Looks like a mixture of do I stay or do I go kind of a situation. Once we get up and get moving, I think Jupiter's going to support us, hopefully. Okay. Moon moves into Cancer Monday round afternoon. And then we've got the moon conjoining Mars, or it's applying to that. First, it will trine Saturn. This is late at night on Monday. This is a really good way to tune into how we need to move forward on something or how we're going to build something or how we're going to make it work. Moon trine Saturn, always good for that. Hopefully that'll help Monday night. Tuesday is the day that we're going to have high emotions. Okay. Several reasons why. Tuesday, April 25th. Moon hitting Mars in the sign of Cancer, which the moon rules. This is just boiling over emotions. We are going to absolutely be feeling this, okay? The other thing is the sextile to Uranus is getting closer from Mars. So being very emotionally aware of what is changing in our lives. And the moon will sextile Mercury at that point too. So Cancer and Taurus are really feeding into each other, which is natural. Water feeds the earth. The earth grows because of the moisture. So that's how I'm looking at this. There is a sense that maybe the rain of emotions actually helps us cultivate what we want to grow. We get very in tune with what our desires are, emotionally speaking. Um, it may be a busy day, definitely high energy. Sometimes with Cancer, we get really sleepy as well because emotions do make us tired. So it can be draining. Um, I'm just looking to make sure there's nothing else that I'm seeing. I do think it'll probably set off Chiron as well, which is very sensitive. So the moon and Mars, did they sextile or square Chiron? They sure do. Okay, so this is later in the evening, Tuesday. A square to Chiron in Aries is very much like a sensitive point in astrology. It can be tension, it can feel like a wound. So as you go to bed, just be very kind to yourself. Self care, self care, self care. Definitely a thing. And then, yeah, the sextile to Saturn gets lit up with the moon there. You know, we have one thing helping us with this Chiron situation, and that is Venus is in an opportunistic sextile to Chiron. So our minds may be able to make sense of what our emotions can't, hopefully, even with Mercury retrograde. Are you guys picking up on how kind of cumbersome the next couple weeks maybe? I mean, it's going to be in between two eclipses, and we have a Mercury retrograde in between two eclipses. So you're going to have these moments where it's cumbersome, where you fumble, but also where you pick it back up and keep running. I mean, that's just the nature of reality. All right. So Wednesday, what's the big story? Do we have a big story? Moon squares Jupiter. Moon trines Neptune. Nothing looks like a huge story. Maybe we'll get some quiet rest time on Wednesday. Moon trine Neptune is pretty nice for that. So let's hope we do. Wednesday the 26th. Moon square Jupiter is a little bit, again, extra emotional. I think it's just going to be a mixed bag every day this week. We're going to have some helpful things and some things that are harder, and we're just going to have to be as kind to ourselves as possible. So let's look at Thursday, April 27th. I've got the moon in Leo. That means it opposes Pluto right off the bat. Luckily, in the central US, we are asleep generally, unless you get up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., really. So I'm happy about that. But we also are going to have the moon squaring the sun as we go into Thursday. That is called the first quarter square of the moon. Now, the first quarter square of the moon in between eclipse season is probably going to be a doozy. The moon is in Leo. It opposes Pluto, which is power and disempowerment and transformation. Leo is about our inner child, our creativity, children in general. So this could be a little tense. It's called a crisis in action. So we have to take action on something about Leo in our charts. Usually that's, a little bit of a intense day. What adds to that intensity is that the moon will also be squaring Mercury later in the evening. Um, it's kind of overnight is the exact square, but the application of it just is like, we really just want to let go and have fun. But Mercury and Taurus is like, but we need to think about our accounts. We need to make sure that our bills are paid and that we're charging enough money and yada, yada, yada. So Thursday, another high energy day. So maybe Wednesday won't. No, they're all high energy. The moon's interacting with everything. Friday, April 28th. is when the Mars sextile to Uranus really kicks up. We also have the moon square Uranus at the same time. Okay, so things could come out of left field Friday, April 28th. What's going to happen? Who knows? Does it mean it's bad? No. Squares aren't always bad, man. Squares make things move. Sometimes squares are tough. Yes. This will be about the way we want to express ourselves versus our values and how those two things work around each other. Values are changing. Maybe the way we have fun changes. Maybe the way we express ourselves, the way we're creative, the way our inner child feels has to change up a little bit as well. Just looking at Friday, making sure there's nothing else. A quick sextile to Venus. So I don't know if I spent enough time. I spent time on Moon square Uranus, but Mars sextile Uranus. This is the a feeling into where things are changing and knowing how to move ourselves towards it. We may not feel with the moon in Leo totally great about it yet, but we're trying. I think that's the point with Mars sextile Uranus. And maybe there is a shift. This could be freedom. Uranus does represent freedom. So this could be, in a certain sense, an emotional freedom moment. Okay, so Saturday is the exact Mars sextile to Uranus. This is opportunistic, in my opinion. I always think Mars and Uranus really have strong interactions together. If they're tough, they're tough. If they're opportunity, you might get someone knocking on your door and saying, hey, I want to pay you for those couple oak trees that have been growing in your yard if you don't want them. And you're like, oh, I meant to cut those down the other day. They're tiny little sprouts. That's the kind of thing that I'm thinking could happen with Mars sextile to Uranus. All right, so Saturday, April 29th, we also have the moon moving into Virgo later in the afternoon. I think it's okay Saturday. It will be applying to an opposition with Saturn. So you're always going to have that feeling that something's weighing on you. Maybe something is a lot of work. But as we wake up Sunday, April 30th, the moon will be sextile Mars, trine Uranus and Mercury. And I think that's going to be really nice. So I'm going to give Sunday a thumbs up, really. I mean, it's looking good. Sunday, even Saturday. I mean, even though we have the squares with the moon, Saturday looks like a thumbs up as well. April 29th, April 28th and 29th is good. Now, once we get into Sunday, April 30th, we get this trine, but something else is building. That's really helpful. And I'm just looking for it. Okay, Monday, May 1st. Here we go. We've got the Mercury Cazimi just about to happen. Mercury and the Sun coming together. It's known as an audience with the king. We get a message Monday, May 1st, a message about something to do with Taurus. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to read you the Sabian symbol for this area of Taurus because I feel like it's really helpful to paint a picture. Not to mention, Taurus has featured so heavily in the astrology lately. Let's just look at what it says. It says, a young couple window shopping. The keynote is the fascination of the youthful ego with the products of his culture. So its attention is turned outward. An interplay takes place between the individual and his culture. He's being molded by which he sees and by prospects for growth in social prestige. It's a phase of socialization of desires. Now, you've heard me mention the word desires a lot because Mars has been so heavily involved. Mars sextiles Uranus. Then we have a Mercury Cazimi, and this talks about how maybe people are starting to understand what we want as a society. I do think Uranus is a very societal planet. So when we're talking about things happening in society, perhaps this Mercury Cazimi brings something up that's useful, that's helpful for all of us. I would like to think so. Um, Monday, May 1st, Moon squares Venus. That's such a blip. I'm not going to spend much time on it. But then we have something, the moon moving into Libra. The moon in Libra, what is that doing? Well, that will trine Pluto right off the bat. We're asleep, not going to make much of a difference. But then it makes this thing called a quincunx, Tuesday, May 2nd. And really the whole aspect pattern is called, you can see the green lines here. It's making a yod with the North Node in Taurus and Saturn in Pisces, which are sextile. This points at relationship balance and justice. And I think on the heels of the Mercury Cazimi, which had that socialization of desires, maybe we all come to some understanding during Tuesday, May 2nd. That helps us. We understand how we fit into the puzzle, how relationships work around us as well. Okay, but this other thing building, I'm just looking. Looks like that may be the biggest thing the moon does on Tuesday, May 2nd. So it's kind of a quiet Tuesday, May 2nd. Yeah, not so bad. But Wednesday, May 3rd, what we got going on here? We've got this special thing. Ooh, it's going into Thursday too. So it's applying Wednesday, May 3rd, going into Thursday. The moon will oppose Chiron, first of all, Wednesday, May 3rd. Sensitive point. It's also going to square Mars, sensitive point. So Wednesday, probably high on the sensitive meter. Okay. It could have to do with what you need versus what others need out of you, your relationships, how you work together. Is this going to trigger us in any way? Definitely a possibility. This is called a T square. So I would put Wednesday, May 3rd on the sensitive level. But as we go into Thursday, we get something really nice, and it starts overnight. But the moon trines Venus and opposes Jupiter, which means Venus and Jupiter are connected in a really nice way. So Thursday, as we wake up, we get this nice Venus sextile to Jupiter. But we also get the moon in Scorpio. I mean, I think it's good that it's trying Saturn, but Scorpio is deep, deep dark. We have to look into what's going on in our shadow world. And then this is really the eclipse stuff happening around this time. So the eclipse is exact May 5th, but May 4th, you're already in it. So it could be kind of deep, especially with Mars and Cancer still ruled by the moon and Scorpio. They're mutually receiving each other in each other's homes. But thankfully, we've got Venus sextile Jupiter. Problem with the Venus sextile Jupiter. What's the problem? The problem is that Venus will be square to Neptune. So while we're pretty sure of what we want, there is this existential question. Is this what's right for me? Is this, clear? Luckily, I think we get the Venus square to Neptune early on Wednesday, which allows us to dream, but squares are just tense, and this does feel like lack of clarity. But then we get the sextile to Jupiter. So it's like boom, boom. So hopefully that won't last too long. And then the moon moves into Scorpio Thursday, May 4th. And we're pretty much at the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, which is exact 12:34 p.m. Central on May 5th, 2023. And wow, is it a doozy with Uranus? think that's the biggest part of that, but I'll talk about that more in a couple of weeks. Um, keep in mind that Mercury will be retrograde up through what did I say, the 14th? Yep, the 14th. So, I mean, even beyond the eclipse, it will be retrograde. And tune into the rising sign videos to see what that means for you. I hope this has helped a little bit. Um, happy solar eclipse. Don't do too much. Take care of yourself, Mars and Cancer. Um, tune into your desires, what you want for yourself, and your values. That's the best things to do around this time. I don't really work with solar eclipses. I just let them be. I mean, it's kind of like the lights being blotted out, right? So maybe we should just sit and hear and listen. I think that's the best thing to do. All right, I'm off to record the rising sign videos. I will see you guys on the flip side, May 4th or 5th during the lunar eclipse in Scorpio.